I want to welcome you to another episode of Mad Talk. Mad Talk is all about how entrepreneurs and creatives are making a difference in their everyday world. And today, in this episode, I have someone who I've been following her journey for a good amount of time right now, and she has inspired me to go after a lot of my goals. And I know she's inspired multiple people to go after theirs, especially with her 5-day course that she just had with you learning how to sell online and learning how to sell your products effectively and pushing through your message. This amazing, incredible entrepreneurial young lady name is Sabah Ali. How you doing today, Sabah?
I am doing amazing. Thank you for that amazing
Mm,
introduction. I loved it.
I'm really good at the introductions. It's like my follow through is where I mess up. Like I'm really good with the introductions, and then I like get you up to this point, and then I got to make sure I keep it there, and then that's
Oh, you
where
did amazing.
yeah, and then I mess up everything, and then it just makes me sound like incoherent with what I'm saying. But I'm okay. I show my flaws on all these videos. I don't care. Can you tell us a little bit about what's your backstory? How would you describe yourself first off? Like, how would if somebody asked you, "Hey, come up with those words, come up with those adjectives," what would those adjectives be for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I am very unforgettable. That's obviously my brand, and that's why I
Ooh,
chose to use that
ooh,
word.
okay,
Um,
okay,
People can just never forget me.
okay, okay.
Um, and the reason why I chose that word is because like I believe like my superpower, which I even didn't really understand or realize that until people started to tell me, is I can really show people what they cannot see within themselves, like their own capabilities. So for me, I'm naturally an introvert, believe it or not. Yes,
Hmm.
I speak on stages. Yes, I like coach, and I feel like a lot of people think I'm really extroverted online, which I am, but like I'm naturally a very introverted person. So I have a tendency to like listen, right? So like backstory for me, I was always interested in entrepreneurship, but it wasn't until I met one of my mentors when I was 19 when I went to college. So like long story short, I just started to work with him and his companies. I started to build my online presence that way as I was, traveling, going to events, and then people started to notice. I was a college student. I was doing this while I was still taking classes, while slowly building my business as well. So I did that, over the course, all throughout college. I graduated, and then since then, it's been 2 years since graduation. And yeah, I mean, now I do this full time.
Hey, congratulations, congratulations. You have done a lot too. Like you've had a bunch of TED Talks. You've been on different cable networks, right? Too, like MS, NBC, stuff
Yeah.
like that. What would you say is how did that start? Like I know we talked about it a little bit in here, but like what was that point that it was like, and then it got to this, and then now I'm here, and then everything else skyrocketed. What was that point for you?
Yeah. Yeah, so it was a little different for me. Like honestly, typically like the typical entrepreneur online, the first thing that they would want to do is obviously make money. I was kind of the opposite of that. So like when I started working with my mentor, his name was Brandon Adams, like he had his own business, right? So he was doing like crowdfunding at the time and like PR and marketing and helping other people with their business. I was helping him do that, but as I was doing that, I was learning PR and marketing and branding, learning how to speak on stage and like landing these features. So I just started to do that for myself. However, like the first product that I sold online was my book. I wrote a book when I was in college, and that was specifically geared towards college students since I was a student at the time. And I believe that book was pretty much like the product that allowed me to start landing these like media features.
Hmm.
I wrote my book, geez, I don't even remember when I was 20. It was March of 2017 that I landed my first media feature on ABC5 that August, right? And then from there, obviously I utilized that on social media. People start to notice, and that's how I kind of started to build up that audience. But as far as like my TEDx talks, like I have a backstory, which like, I mean, we can go into
Hmm.
like a story that I shared in my TEDx talk. So, they're just like people always ask me like how it kind of just all happened. I kind of just went out there and like did it. I didn't really have a strategy.
I
And like
understand that.
honestly for me, like my business, it came later. Like that's what I do right now. But I kind of just focused on doing the fun stuff and like my bucket list goals that I wanted to do first, if that makes sense.
I think that that's something that you are a great example of someone who goes after their goals. Why is that so important? Especially being an entrepreneur, that drive, that, oh, I don't care what anybody else says, I'm gonna do this regardless.
I feel like it comes to a certain point where you just are kind of obsessed with what you want to be doing. And
Hmm.
I didn't get to that point until I actually was just around like-minded individuals. And it was just like a constant, like, I was constantly around this type of like energy. So it's like, obviously you've probably been to like entrepreneurial events where you go for a few days and you come back home
Hmm.
and that energy dies. I was always around that when I was in college because I was working with my mentor in person a lot of the times.
Hmm.
So for me, like I just kept seeing other people do it. So for me, like I was in college, I had nothing to lose. I didn't have a business, so I didn't have to focus on making money at the time. So for me, like I was just so driven to like try and see if I could land a media feature, try and see if I could speak on stages, right? So it was just
Hmm.
kind of like it was fun. And I feel like a lot of people when they get into entrepreneurship and when they get obsessed with work and getting money and getting clients, they kind of miss out on the journey that they're actually going on. Right. So I think that like for me, I'm just always so goal driven. Like I'm naturally a very like disciplined type of person. Like I my like the bar for me I have is like up here. Like I always just want to be growing
Hmm.
every single day. And I think it just comes down to the person. But you know, entrepreneurship, especially right now, anyone could do it online, but there is a certain level of like commitment and sacrifice that you have to do in order for you to make like entrepreneurship like a long-lived career.
Yeah, and you gotta stop being scared. Like I see so many people. You're shaking your nodding head. Yeah, you gotta stop being scared.
Yeah.
Um, and like that fear, is that fear good though? Is there a good element to that fear?
Mhm. I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, there's once again, it's kind of two part. I feel like there's different perspectives for everything, but like for me, there was a lot of limiting beliefs that I had to get over until I got to a certain point where I was really comfortable in running my business. I feel like everyone has that fear. I was actually having a really good conversation with somebody the other day, one of my mentors, and he told me how like the feeling that us entrepreneurs get of like fear and imposter syndrome, that doesn't ever go away. And that's
Hmm.
like the secret that people look for is the secret is you just have to learn how to control that in your mind and continue to push through. Because even the most successful entrepreneurs out there are making millions of billions of dollars, they still go through that same process. But they just learned how to actually control it. So when I see, because I talk to a lot of people like every single day when I'm doing calls, when I see these people like jumping from like project to niche to business idea to business idea to try and
Hmm.
identify like, ooh, what's going to work?
Hmm.
The secret is any of them can work.
You
Just
just
matter
gotta
of
keep
fear.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just got to keep
That's
going and you got to see the potential in it.
it.
I think one thing that Bill Gates once said, and I don't know if you ever heard this quote before, was adaptive vision. He was saying that in the computer business, that a lot of people did not see the potential in what the computer could be. He saw the potential in it. Having that depth of vision, realizing that, hey, I can see an acorn and see a whole forest or see a whole community from that one acorn. That is a leap for some people. It is. So talking about imposter syndrome, me, I'm very glossy on that. Like I understand somewhat what it is, but when I see videos online talking about it, like they go all to these different areas. What would you say is your definition of imposter syndrome, and where does that come from? Does it? I know you mentioned the fear thing, but
Mhm.
where deep down does that come from?
Once again, it depends on the context.
Yes. Nah,
I
that
could,
I
I
was
could go
I'm
about this
saying.
like numerous different ways, but I guess I'll just share with you like my story of it.
Okay.
For me, like I think the main thing that I struggled with like imposter syndrome was I thought I was just way too young to
Mhm.
be like, helping these like older business owners because typically, believe it or not, a lot of my clients are older.
Yeah.
Because they need help with social media, they don't know how to be doing videos and creating this type of personality to utilize in their marketing for their business. So for me, it was always like, oh, are people gonna like take me seriously? Because I'm young, I'm also female, and I'm also like of my, like, I'm a minority. So
Mhm.
like these are just always things that I had to go through. Yes, there were times where, people I talked to, they didn't have like the best intentions and wanting to work with me. But a lot of the times it was just in my head. So how I always like to state it is like, most of the time, I like to say like maybe like 97% of the time, if fear, it's not even like real at all. So once you really just identify that it's not even happening in your reality, then you can kind of navigate it and figure it out that way. But yeah, I mean, I think everyone just goes through imposter syndrome, because if you're starting something new, you will have those doubts, but
Mhm.
not until you actually do it will you figure out whether or not you really enjoy doing it, or if you want to go down like a different path.
I think that's the problem that you see with a lot of different people is that they want to be all these different things, but they feel because you get these entrepreneurs who go online. Okay. I don't want to go on a rant and do this to you guys, but and I'm not saying you personally. I'm talking about there's because I've seen your content, I've consumed your content.
Yeah.
You're different than that because you also come up with actionable steps and stuff like
Mhm.
that. My issue is with the ones who say, well, entrepreneur, you got to be born an entrepreneur. You got to be all this other stuff, trying to make it. That's what I'm saying, trying to make it more than what it is. A
Mhm.
pure definition of entrepreneur is someone that built a business for themselves.
Mhm.
When you see these guys that say those things, they're saying you have to build like a Fortune 500 company that's making over a millions of dollars a year to say that you're an entrepreneur. No, entrepreneur, I could go outside and mow people lawns, $100, $50 a pop or something like that, start my own monthly subscription service and do that for them. And then I'm an entrepreneur.
Oh yeah,
And it'd
I
be that simple.
100% agree with you on that point. Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, you don't need to have like hundreds of people below you, in order to be an entrepreneur. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like the point that you said about like being born as an entrepreneur, I think that's completely like bullshit. Like I'm sorry, I don't know if I can cuss, but like
No, you can. You
I
good. Yeah. Hey, be yourself.
like I don't think I was born an entrepreneur. Like if you would have met me like 6 years ago, I would not even want to have a conversation with you because I was so shy. Like
Hmm.
never in a million years would I have thought I'd be able to speak on stages, go live on like a newscast and like coach people. However, I'm doing it right now. Like I think the main thing people need to realize is like everyone can be an entrepreneur, but that doesn't mean everyone should if they can't, navigate like going through and really like pushing yourself, because I had to push myself a lot to get to this point, right? So
Hmm.
I think it kind of goes back to like the main thing is like really understanding what it is that you want in life, because when you understand that, then you can kind of take the steps in order to move ahead.
One of the big things that you said is that you're a minority and you're a woman. How has that impacted your perspective of the whole entrepreneurial game and your role in the position that you're in now?
Hmm. So honestly, I think it's actually benefited me a lot.
Hmm.
There's been many times now looking back where I've gone, able to speak at certain events just because they wanted more diversity, like they wanted a
Hmm.
female's perspective. So for me, obviously, I like one of my favorite things to do is to speak. Right.
Hmm.
So I always want to, go out and speak because I just feel like I can connect with people more when I'm in person with them. So for me, it's helped me a lot. I've also had a lot of my clients tell me because I always ask my clients why they choose to work with me versus someone else, in the industry.
Hmm.
Market feedback and research always. Pro tip there,
No, you
guys.
see, a pro tip: always be sneaky when you're trying to do market research. I got you. I got you.
And yeah, and I've had a lot of clients tell me they chose to work with me because I was like different. I was younger, I had a different perspective, but then also like not to be stereotypical, but you see a lot of these, white male alpha males in the entrepreneurial space, which is
Hmm.
okay. They're doing really well in their business, but not everyone can relate to that type of personality. So I'm naturally a very empathetic person. People resonate with that. So for me, like once again, another limiting belief I used to have, and I actually made a post about this. I want to say it was actually maybe a year ago, that I used to hate being a very empathetic person, but that's actually helped me a lot in my business because I coach. So I can really feel what my clients are going through. So it's easier for me to help them kind of navigate through that as well.
It's because, and then also, you talking about like those alpha male like white guys and everything like that, which is partially why we're doing the whole male defining beauty series
Yeah.
on the Splitting Image channel. So definitely catch that if that comes out before this, or if I'm dropping a new project on you. There you go. See, I do my cheap plugs in
There
throughout
you
the
go.
interview just to get them in there. But something that when you talk about that, I feel like that's been a stereotype and a standard that America has had over the last since the beginning of this country, is that
Yeah.
they try to put up saying that over every industry leader had to be that. You see what I
Mhm.
mean? How do you feel about that notion that you have to be, this alpha male, this angry person? Oh, you know what I mean? Like you've seen it on these different movies and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like you gotta go into the boardroom and be like, hey, you listen to me, you're my employee, I tell you what the hell to do, like, all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
how do you feel about that brand of leadership? Because somebody like Steve Jobs has done it and created Apple, and
Yeah.
people think that that's the standard. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I feel like the way that society is going, that like obviously it's worked. Obviously it's worked and it's continuing to work. But I feel like a lot more people nowadays are more so resonating with like the person rather than like the tactic or the strategy, if that makes sense. Like
Mhm.
I know for me, like I've had people, call me out on like, oh, you shouldn't be posting pictures of yourself. Like that's not a brand, that's not a business. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like
Yeah.
I will run my business how I want to.
Mhm.
But like that's why I always tell people like there is like especially when it comes to branding because that's what I do. There's no tactic around branding. Like you can copy me. I've had people copy my posts word for word and it doesn't work for them because
Really?
that's yeah, like I literally had people copy my posts word for word. And I would like them and I'd be like, "Oh, I hope it works for you," but I know it won't because that's not their voice and that's not their message. And branding, like I mean, this is kind of me going into teaching, but that's more so identifying like your own unique like factor, right? And
Mhm.
I have like a lot of entrepreneurial friends that are females. And for me, like I like personally I believe there's just so much different like creativity and a different point of view coming from a female than like a male, but like I choose to just amplify that in my marketing and work with both people. A lot of times, especially in the beginning when I got into coaching, people are like, oh, you should just work with females. I'm like, why? Like I think I can really help males identify what's wrong with their business as well. Like why
Mhm.
should I just coach females? And once again, like the majority of my clients there are males. So for me, like I'm not like a feminist at all whatsoever.
Mhm.
However, I do believe like I think I can do just as well as like a white alpha male is like too. But
Mhm.
like I don't know, I think it just kind of depends on like the person. I have a lot of female friends, entrepreneurs that are way on this side and they're super feminist and that's okay too. But I don't know, I'm just kind of like over here doing the thing.
No, I know you,
I
you
hope
was
that
you
didn't
was
make
trying
sense.
to, yeah, you was trying not to say, you know what? Hey, here you can say whatever you want. We good.
Hopefully that made
Honestly,
sense.
you can say whatever you want here. We're good.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you were talking about branding, and I think that's something that we need to get into because now this is where we get into like some tips for our audience. We have a
Yeah.
lot of entrepreneurs who watch this, a lot of millennials, a lot of future influencers who want to build their, authority online and want to build their audience. What would you say? And I always do this, and people get mad at me. What would you say is your top five? Five is my favorite number when I tell people this. What would you say is your top five tips for branding that people need to do right now in 2020?
Top 5 tips. I think the first one is understanding what branding actually really means. The
Okay.
term brand is so, so broad.
Mhm.
But branding is all about the feeling and the experience that you want to create for your consumer. That's all it is. Within the term branding, there's external and there's internal branding, right? So external is like the logos and the colors and the fonts and making everything look all pretty and fancy. The
Mhm.
internal is like the messaging and how you're actually connecting with somebody. So like the first thing is like understanding and identifying what type of feeling and experience you want to create for that consumer. And
Hmm.
then the second thing is, especially now in 2020, obviously with everything that's going on in the world, kind of have to be online. So
You do.
identifying like who you're actually like serving to, because
Hmm.
if you just go out there and start creating a lot of content, nothing's really going to convert, and you can't, build out that audience and that tribe around you. So number two is identifying who it is that you want to be serving. Number three, I tell you, is try to like understand, I call it like your unforgettable factor, which is like your unique factor within yourself, because that's going to set you apart from everyone else that's doing the exact same thing as you are. Number four, I always preach this, and this is how I built up my audience, but content, like, and more importantly, sharing your story through your content. Like 90%, I think it's like 90% of decisions that we make on a daily basis come from an emotional level, meaning from like your subconscious mind. This is me
Hmm.
going into like my nerdy psychology.
All right,
It
let's
comes
get
from
into it. Let's do this. Let's
it
do
comes
this.
from your, yeah, it comes from your subconscious mind. So like you have your conscious and your subconscious. So if your emotions are stored in there and 90% of your decisions come from that, why would you go from a logistical standpoint selling your products, which a lot of people do, versus selling your products through a story and touching on like the benefits of somebody going through your process, right? So what am I on? Number three or number four?
Now
Creating
you're number
content.
four. Now you're number
Number
five.
four, creating content and utilizing your story as a major gateway through your marketing.
Hmm.
And then number five, ooh, number five. Number five, I would say, is actually provide your audience with something. And I know that sounds like, duh, obviously you have to, but this is something I didn't do in the beginning. When I was building up my audience, a lot of people didn't know what it was I was doing, because I would just talk about inspirational stuff and motivational stuff and sharing my story, but nobody knew actually how I could help them. Not until I actually told them so. And I see a lot of people making this mistake. So, like, you have to have something you can offer your audience, even if you're not selling them anything. Like, you have to give them a means of why they should be following you.
Hmm.
So like, for an example, if you are some sort of influencer in like the health and beauty like niche, like, why are you doing that? You can
Explain
kind
it.
of, yeah.
Yeah, talk about it. Why are you doing that? Like one of my big things for splitting image, one of the channels that we have in Creator Source Studios. Definitely follow all of the links in the description box. Yeah. Anyway, with splitting image, for me, the reason why I started it was because I wanted to talk to the 19-year-old Antoine. Back then, I wasn't really that confident in myself. I didn't believe in myself enough. I thought that I was not worthy of anything. And what I needed to do was tell myself, first off, you are worthy of something. You woke up this morning. So that means that you have purpose flowing through you. That was one of the big things that I needed to tell myself, but I didn't tell myself that. And I didn't have anyone around me that was telling me that I should do that. No, they kept telling me, oh, you need to change this about yourself. You need to change that about yourself. They weren't talking to me and telling me, first and foremost, the fact that you're alive right now means that you are worthy. But if you want to add to that, kind of like if you had a car and you want to, add things to it to make it even nicer, that's when you get into the tactics. That's when you get into, hey, you need to dress better, keep yourself groomed, all this other stuff. Believe in yourself. So how powerful was that for you? Did you have one of those like moments where you was like, you know what, I need to really believe in myself more than what I was doing in the past?
So I think I've gone through a lot of stages where I've gone through that, but
Hmm.
I think the main point when I really understood that was when I was already doing well in my business.
Okay.
So this was, I want to say this was maybe like 6 months after I graduated.
Hmm.
Like, I was doing pretty well in my business, and then I just couldn't like grow my business, and I couldn't figure out why, because I was doing the right type of things, but there were just some sort of resistance within myself to like not, like, I just kept like self-doubting myself. So not until I realized like I'm doing this tactics and I'm doing these strategies, but I can't grow, and the only thing that wasn't working was like myself.
Hmm.
So I think when us as entrepreneurs, we go through all the courses, all the mentors, all the strategies, and we know it all, and it's still not working. The only thing is you that's stopping you.
Mm.
Right. So I think that was like with me, and up until I realized and I got into like meditation, like my daily routine and like working out, even though I've been doing that for a while, not until I really just had a strategy to get myself back into that place of knowing that I can do it, did I actually start to like scale my business.
Yeah, you have to get to know yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And that really is like the secret. Like if you know you can do it, then like you can. Once again, like what I said earlier, any type of strategy will work for you. It's just a matter of being consistent and being disciplined at it.
I want to talk about one last thing, and I want to talk about just the experience of that 5-day course you did on Facebook a while ago, the free course. What
Mm-hmm.
would you say is the biggest thing that, like, the biggest responses that you were getting from everyone? Because I know they had a lot of people in there, a lot of people were participating. You were giving homework every night.
Yeah.
You were talking about things and breaking it down. What was like the most, okay, I see us doing something. I see what I'm saying is clicking with these people. What was that moment for you?
Um, so I feel like there was a lot, but yeah, I did the workshop last week. It was a 5-day organic client acquisition workshop. So it's pretty much like an overview of what I teach my one-on-one clients on how to go out there and create a high ticket offer to sell, to clients, all organically through branding and organic marketing.
Hmm.
But when I was talking to people who obviously attended and went through the workshop, I think the biggest thing that they realized and understood was like what you're actually selling somebody. Like you're not selling them the process. So this is something that I struggled with a lot when I started my business. I would sell branding and I would sell organic marketing, but that's just the process. That's not the destination you're taking someone. The destination is them landing clients. So I see a lot of people, they're like, oh, you need to be on like a keto diet, so they promote keto diet, but no one gives a
Yeah.
shit for using a keto diet. They just want to lose weight, right?
Yes.
So I think that was the biggest thing. I mean, there was different epiphanies that people got, but that was like the biggest thing that clicked with people, is really understanding that result, because that's what you're selling. But a lot of times people are marketing the process, not the end result.
This is my favorite part of these interviews, and it's called the 2-minute pitch segment. And in this 2-minute pitch segment, we give you 2 minutes on the clock, and we let you pitch something that you're doing currently that is making a difference in your community, in your world, everything like that. So this is your opportunity to promote your business, whatever it is that you're doing. So for us, I put 2 minutes on the clock, literally a timer.
Cool.
Yeah, you ready?
Yep.
All right. I'm just because you was like cool. I was like, yo, you. All right. Starting now.
Okay, cool. Well, to anyone who is watching, usually I don't do pitches on podcasts that much, but if you're at a point where you feel like you do have an expertise, maybe you're freelancing a little bit, you have somewhat of an offer, but you're really struggling with actually going out and getting clients. And for one, you don't want to be spending money on ads, or you have tried it and you haven't seen an ROI, and you really just want to develop that sort of personality space within your actual industry, meaning like building a personal brand around yourself. I would highly recommend, first of all, following me on Instagram to look and see my content, to start in implementing that in your own business. However, like what you were just saying, I did do a workshop last week on how to get clients organically. If you guys still want to join that, I'm going to be putting up the replay for that. But just reach out to me, go to my Instagram at the Sabah Ali, and just send me a DM and just be like, oh, I listened to the podcast, I want to join the workshop, and I'll send you guys a link. If you actually want to work with me like one-on-one, just send me a message still. That's like the easiest way to get in touch with me. A lot of my program is high ticket, therefore you can't buy it through a website. You have to get on a phone call with me. I do that for two reasons. For one, I want to make sure it's a good fit for you. Number two, I only work with certain type of people, so it's very exclusive. That's all I have.
You low key was throwing shade at the end, but okay, that's fine. Anyway, yeah,
Just
30
say.
seconds. All right, so you win. You had 30 seconds on that one. I'll give you that one. Even though I should disqualify you for the shade at the end, but it is what it is. Anyway, it was so great having you on, Miss Ali. It was so great having you on, because that's your name now. I'm not even gonna call you Sabah. I'm just gonna call you Miss Ali now.
All right.
Yeah, we're gonna make that into your brand. That's your new brand now. All right, so it was just so great having you on, and we definitely will be bringing you back again, maybe to talk
Mhm.
about high ticket items, how to sell it, depending on what goes on.
Yeah.
Maybe if you guys can convince her, I'm just saying, because her time is valuable. And definitely follow her on all her social medias, and definitely keep up with her story, because again, she's one of these people who, you gotta keep your eye out, because I guarantee 5-10 years from now, you're going to be one of these, like a Gary Vee or Evan Carmichael and all these other guys who are building these substantial followings and helping as many people as possible. And that's what I see for you. If you caught any type of value from this interview, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share on all of your social medias, and we'll catch you again. This was Mad Talk. I'm Antoine. That's Miss Sabah Ali.
Thank you so much for having me.
Not a